I have now read Marlene's blog 5, entitled The Janito Social Contract. Here it is. It's a very difficult blog article to read, and I really don't know where to start and end. There's a lot of political content in this latest blog article. No doubt the government of Gibraltar will pick up the many misconceptions and misguided criticism, but I'll allow the government of Gibraltar to do that because this is political content and it's not for me to respond. But I would like to pick up on a number of things that the MP says in her blog. For example, she talks about the GSLP privatization model. And then she says, quote, "This model has been going on since privatization started in Gibraltar in the late 80s. Close quotes. Clearly she's referring to 1988 when the GSLP government was elected into government, or the GSLP party was elected into government in the 1988 general election. In my Viewpoint program appearance, I spoke about the importance of 1988. What I didn't point out then, and I must do so now, is that, of course, Gibraltar in 1988 was almost wholly reliant. The economy was almost wholly reliant on MOD spending. Our GDP was virtually dependent on the MOD. That was the economy that the then government found when it was elected into office. I know Marlene doesn't like me to talk about our economic history, but I think in the context of our comment here, I have to do that. The biggest privatization in Gibraltar's history happened in 1983, when the UK government closed the naval dockyard in 1983 and transferred the management of the naval dockyard into the hands of commercial private enterprise appointed from within the UK. That was the biggest quasi-privatization in the history of Gibraltar, Marlene. And if you may remember that one of the reasons why the GSLP won the 1984 general election in terms of obtaining all the seats in the opposition benches was precisely because the main debate of the 1984 general election was precisely the commercialization of the naval dockyard. And indeed, one of the main reasons why the GSLP opposition then won the 1988 general elections was precisely for the same reason. You then, Marlene, talk about, our corporate tax system. And I'm going to quote from your latest blog article. You say, quote, "Gibraltar didn't suffer as badly as other jurisdictions in the crisis of 2008. In fact, places like Gibraltar saw opportunity within the chaos and used their friendly tax regimes to attract business in what had become a global economic reshuffle. Unfortunately, the boom and bust cycle is a key characteristic of capitalist economies." End quote. I mean, this is just, again, misguided criticism. I really don't know where you get this from. Who is advising you on this, Marlene? There is here an implicit suggestion, again, of fiscal dumping. I mean, this is just not correct. In any event, 2008 is the worst date you can choose from our entire economic history to make a criticism of the fact that Gibraltar was making its tax system available for others to engage in tax avoidance. The reason is very simple. The large majority of global companies in 2008 suffered record massive losses. So therefore, given that they had massive losses to carry forward into future profitable tax years, the reality is there was no to little tax to pay for many years to come. So this is just not a reflection of reality, Marlene. You also make reference to my impassioned viewpoint appearance and say that Gibraltar has a low tax model and that I did not tell you, or I did not tell the public the whole truth. You then shift the debate away from corporate tax into personal taxation, Marlene, which is an entirely new area, an entirely new territory, but I'm happy to engage with you in debate in that as well. You make a specific criticism of the gross income-based system of taxation. Well, Marlene, as you know, this system of taxation was introduced by the GST government. You were a prominent member of the GSD as a GSD MP, so presumably you didn't have criticism of that tax system when you were a GSD MP, I suppose. Much of what you say undoubtedly is something that the government of Gibraltar will pick up in the continued debate around personal taxation, and undoubtedly it will be something that will be addressed in parliamentary debate in the next budget session. You also talk about the influx of Hingwis, high net worth individuals in Gibraltar, Marlene. And what I really want to understand, because it's not clear from your blog, is are you criticizing our progressive tax system, or are you suggesting that if elected into government, you would abolish the category 2 tax status, which is, as you know, the tax status which is aimed at high net worth individuals that come to Gibraltar in order to seek tax residency, legitimately, I must add, in Gibraltar. I'm just not sure as to what your criticism is. You make references to my fanatical defense of an economic system. Well, I don't believe that it's fanatical. It's just a defense of our financial services industry, and indeed those parts of our economic system which have been very, very successful in generating wealth over a long period of time for the benefit of the large majority of Gibraltarians. You say that Gibraltarians are not stupid. I agree with you. Gibraltarians are not stupid, Marlene. You specifically refer to the current government spending a lot of money, and more specifically about the national debt. Well, my concern, Marlene, is that if your government, if your party gets elected into government, that you will have no money to spend. I mean, the only reason why you can spend money, Marlene, is because you generate wealth. If you don't generate wealth because you destroy the economy, and I'm speaking hypothetically speaking, anyone that destroys the economy through economic policies that are not conducive towards growth, then the reality is that there is no money to spend. So a Together Gibraltar government, if elected into office, what money are you going to spend? Where is that money going to come from, Marlene? You talk about high levels of national debt. Again, are you in a position to even take advantage of raising debt in the markets if the economy doesn't generate the wealth to support the payment of our national debt? When you left the GSD, Marlene, you talked about toxic atmosphere or toxic tensions. I mean, when I read your blog, my concern is that you've created a toxic economic policy for Gibraltar if elected into government. And that is my main concern here. I am not interested in the politics of this. I'm just interested in what is in the best interest of Gibraltar, and the things that I read just raise more and more questions in my mind, Marlene. So no doubt I've touched upon some of the key areas that I wanted to touch upon, and the government of Gibraltar, I am sure, at some point will address the many errors in your latest blog. Thank you.